I actually made some progress this week. I made my first game. I went from this to this. Does that make me a game developer now? Like I said in my last video, I'm trying to learn game development. I'm looking at learning some of the basics first to get really good at those so that I can eventually be able to do some cool stuff. So this past week I tried to make my own game. Most of you know it. It's the game that took the world by storm and had everyone addicted to it a couple years ago. Flappy Bird. It seems like a pretty simple game to make. Not much movement. The bird just flaps up and down and the pipes move across the screen. Easy, right? Well, not exactly. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how I went from nothing to some whack looking bird actually flapping around. Now you're probably thinking that this was simple because I just watched the tutorial on exactly how to do it. But I didn't. The only tutorials I watched was on how to do specific things. I used what I learned from the tutorials to actually make this game without someone telling me exactly how to do it. Before I get some flack, I'd just like to let you guys know that yes, I did make the bird, which is why it looks like it's dying. I'm not an artist, but you guys could probably tell that already. But anyways, let's get to the video. I first started with trying to make the bird fly, because that seemed like the simplest. From what I learned last week, the way to make things move is to use the add force function. At the moment, this is the only way I know how to do this, so if there is a better way, please let me know. I'm not really happy with how the bird is flying though. Instead of looking like Flappy Bird, it's more looking like Floppy Bird. I decided to use more force in the function to try and fix it. And I'd say it doesn't look too bad. It looks more or less like the original Flappy Bird. But one thing I've realized about character movement is that it's extremely difficult to get the character to move exactly how you picture it in your head. It doesn't jump how you want and it doesn't fall like you expect. I assume you have to fiddle around quite a bit with the physics of the character to get it to move how you want. I definitely see this as being an important skill I'll have to learn. I'll probably get a lot better at it the more that I actually code character movement, but I guess we'll see. And just so you know, in case my characters still move like trash in the future, just forget what I said. I added some borders above and below the bird to keep the bird from actually flying out of the screen. I normally would have coded something like this, but found using these colliders to be a lot easier and quicker. After I finished with the bird movement, I focused on trying to get the pipes to spawn and then move across the screen. Instead of moving the bird to the pipes, I figured that you could actually just move the pipes towards the bird and it would make it look like the bird's actually moving through the pipes. I used collider triggers to figure out if the bird actually hits the pipe. So now every time the bird hits the pipe, it's game over. I initially struggled with getting the pipes to spawn correctly, but eventually found out that I had one thing wrong in my code. Yep, one thing. And eventually fixed it, and I must say that it looks quite cool. I wanted to make my game look a bit nicer and more professional, so I found the Flappy Bird background and just put it in. I tried to make the background move in the back while you actually play the game. I think it's called parallax or something. But I was getting quite confused on how to do it, so I pushed it back to learn a bit later. I watched a Brackeys tutorial on how to work with UIs and create menus for games. At the start of my game, I have a UI where you have to press the spacebar to actually start playing. I also made a main menu that appears at the start of the game, and then a game over screen that appears at the end of the game. I realized having some menus and some UIs and some buttons actually makes the game look really good, and it's a lot simpler to make than what I initially thought. I watched another tutorial on how to actually count score in a game. So now every time you go through the pipes, your score goes up. Most of the main elements are finished, so I wanted to run it, and I was pretty sure it was going to run perfectly. And to my surprise, it didn't. Coding, am I right? For some reason the bird didn't want to show up on the screen, and I had no idea why. I figured out that my bird was spawning somewhere off screen. And when I say off screen, I mean way off screen. So I fixed it. And there, everything seems to be working fine. For now. I then tried to fix the collisions between the bird and the pipe to trigger the game over screen when a bird goes into the pipe. And for some reason, it wasn't working. And again, it was because of one thing in my code. One thing that really frustrates me with coding is the fact that one typo can really just stuff you up. You'll spend forever trying to look for the problem and it'll turn out that instead of being pipes, it should have just been pipe. And look at this, it seems to be working quite well now. The last few touch-ups I wanted to make was just to give the bird some animations and some sound effects during the game. So I watched a few Brackeys tutorials on how to actually use these sound effects and animations to make the game better. At first, adding animations and sound effects doesn't seem to be worth the effort, until you actually see the final product and see that they really add a lot to the game. I found the original Flappy Bird flapping sound effects and just used those. And here it is, my first proper game. I exported it as an application, so now you can actually play the game without having to go into Unity first. And that was actually really cool. I was quite impressed that at the end of this week I was actually able to make a proper game. and that was just in a week. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next week or even the next month. So this week I learned a bit about character movement. I also learned how to work with obstacles in a game. I learned how to make UIs and menus and actually use sound effects and animations on my characters. I see these as being some of the really important basics to learn because I see them being used nearly in all things I'm going to do in the future. So I'd really like to get a lot better at them. So there we are, I made my first game. And I must say I'm quite proud of it, even though the bird looks the way it does. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're wondering why I started this YouTube channel, you can just click on this video.